The first red flag wasn't the lukewarm coffee or the funny little calendar mix-up that had Melanie's quarterly review rescheduled 3 times. It was the way the CEO, Rick, with his smug tooth bleach grin and startup brain energy, called her Melissa in front of the entire board. She'd corrected him. Twice. Still, he patted her shoulder like she was an overperforming barista and said, "Your crew's on fire this quarter, missy. Keep pumpin'." Melanie Reyes had spent the last 11 years dragging the company's deadweight sales department into the goddamn 21st century. When she joined, their CRM was a glorified Excel file, and half the reps thought lead scoring was a football stat. Now, her 7-person team carried 60% of Q4's projected revenue, signed, sealed, with multi-year contracts ready for renewal. She didn't do rah-rah speeches or TikTok strategy boards. She built relationships, closed deals, and made her people feel like warriors in a world of Slack emojis and fake metrics. They just landed a $4.2 million deal with a healthcare SaaS client that could have gone to Oracle, and Rick still treated her like a departmental mascot. Meanwhile, her team was buzzing. Mark had hit 160% of quota. Aisha finally got that breakthrough with the automotive vertical. Even junior rep Casey had brought in a lead so hot it practically smoked. Everyone was whispering about bonuses. Not in that manifestation journal kind of way, but like real optimism. Someone said they saw the CFO ordering a second bottle of wine during last week's investor dinner. Someone else swore the CEO mentioned record-setting rewards during his Q3 offsite debrief. Melanie didn't count chickens, but even she allowed herself one dangerous thing, hope. Hope that maybe, for once, good work would be seen, counted, rewarded. And hey, while we're talking about team effort, 97% of folks listening right now haven't hit that follow button. I'm not saying it hurts our feelings, but even Casey cried a little. Subscribing, that's the bonus that actually motivates the squad. Anyway, Melanie wasn't naive. She didn't expect Rolexes or rooftop champagne, but a performance bonus, that was part of her contract. That was numbers, math, logic. For all his smoothie brain slogans, Rick had signed off on her comp structure when she renegotiated last year. And she had receipts, emails, memos, even the Slack thread where he typed, "Let's properly reward success this time." So she let herself exhale. A little. She booked her team's favorite bar for a low-key Friday happy hour. She ordered new laptop stands to replace the wobbly ones in the bullpen. She even joked about using her bonus to finally fix the haunted garbage disposal in her kitchen. It growled like a dying raccoon and once coughed up a spoon from 2009. But underneath it all, under the spreadsheets, the client calls, the late-night Slack triage, something was gnawing, a rustle in the bushes. The coup, Darren, started asking weirdly granular questions about sales dependencies. HR had randomly audited her team's PTO logs, and someone accidentally CC'd her on an email chain about leadership resource optimization. Still, she told herself it was paranoia. Burnout, too much cold brew and too little sleep. Besides, they wouldn't be that dumb, not when she held the keys to their entire revenue engine. Right? The Friday of the all-hands meeting. Melanie wore black, not for drama, it just made her feel grounded, solid. Her team sat near the front, joking about what kind of gift cards they might get. Aisha said she was manifesting Delta Sky miles. Mark wanted bourbon. Casey said he'd settle for anything that wasn't a branded water bottle with the company logo peeling off. No one was ready for what came next. Rick swaggered on stage like he was about to announce an IPO, not a gut punch. He clicked to the final slide of his deck, big bold letters, Comic Sans, of course. "Teamwork tastes better with pizza." Then he said it. "Your bonus this year is a pizza party." Silence, then scattered, confused laughter. Melanie didn't laugh, neither did her team. Mark stared at the floor. Aisha blinked, expression blank. Casey looked like someone had just canceled Christmas. Melanie's stomach dropped through the floor, because in that moment she knew. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't some awkward phrasing or rollout delay. It was deliberate. A knife slid in with a smile. And for the first time in 11 years, Melanie Reyes felt something dangerous settle behind her ribs. Not disappointment, not confusion, revolution. It wasn't just the words, it was the way Rick delivered them. Like a frat bro announcing beer pong winners, not the leader of a company that had just posted its highest revenue since inception. "Let's celebrate everyone's hard work," he said, arms spread like he was Christ blessing the Olive Garden. And what better way than with some hot za and good vibes? Melanie didn't move, her spine locked in place like a steel beam. Around her, forced chuckles echoed, those hollow, instinctive office laughs that happen when no one wants to be the first one to call bullshit. Aisha leaned over, whispering, "Is this a joke?" Melanie didn't answer. On stage, Rick was still going. "This year, we believe in shared success. That means investing in team bonding, not just handing out checks to the usual overachievers." He made air quotes with his fingers. Someone clapped. Probably one of the interns who still thought team culture meant anything but cheap distraction. She scanned the room. Darren, the coup, was typing something on his phone. The CFO, Layla, was watching her with the same expression you'd give a rabid dog behind a glass door. No eye contact, no acknowledgement, just that careful, calculated sidestep people make when they know they're part of the betrayal. Melanie's blood buzzed. Her team wasn't stupid. They were looking to her now, not Rick. Mark had his jaw clenched so tight she could see the vein in his temple. Casey had slumped in his seat like his whole posture had deflated. Aisha's eyes were glassy, blinking too fast. These were the people who'd spent the last 6 months pulling 12-hour days, who canceled family vacations, ran demos from parking lots, took calls during Thanksgiving dinner. They didn't want medals, they didn't even need confetti, but they deserved something. Acknowledgement, respect, compensation, and they got dominoes. Rick slapped the mic like a game show host. Don't worry, we'll have options, meat, veggie, gluten-free. We know how hungry y'all are after a big win. Melanie wanted to walk up there and shove that microphone straight through his veneers. Instead, she sat very still. Rage didn't help here. Rage would cloud things. She needed clarity, calculation. She needed to remember that this wasn't a one-time slight. This was the culmination. The red flags had been flapping for months, ignored performance reviews, withheld commission breakdowns, budget approvals that mysteriously got stuck in legal. She told herself to be patient, to be a team player. Now she realized they'd been preparing for this. Soft sabotage. Downplay the wins, muddy the numbers, cut her off at the knees without ever saying her name. Rick had just made it official. He even tried to add flair like this was all part of some master plan. And hey, he said with a wink, pizza's better than inflation-busted gift cards, right? The room chuckled again, not louder, just sadder. Melanie turned slowly toward Darren as the applause limped into existence, was whispering something to Layla. Both of them glanced at her, then quickly away. Her hands were steady, though her heartbeat was a metronome in her throat. She didn't smile, didn't frown, she just memorized their faces like she was taking mental screenshots for evidence. The meeting rolled on, department updates, bad graphs, hollow talk of synergy. Melanie's team didn't take notes. Neither did she. What she did instead, right there in the middle of Rick's sales projections slide, was open her phone and find that email. The one from Sarah Lynn, VP of Sales at Atrix Dynamics, the rival firm that had tried to poach her last summer. The subject line had said, "When you're ready to be treated like a partner, not an accessory." Melanie had left it unread. At the time, loyalty still meant something. Now her thumb hovered over it. She pressed reply, but didn't type. Not yet, not here, not in this room full of liars and cowards. No, this deserved precision. She would bury them with a smile. Let them toast pepperoni while she planned the heist of the century. One thing was clear, if this was war, she'd already won the first battle. They just didn't know it yet. The Monday after Pizzagate, Melanie did what professionals are supposed to do. She drafted a clean, concise email to HR, subject line, bonus structure clarification. No exclamation points, no sarcasm, just bullet points. Her Q4 results, her signed compensation agreement, and a polite request for a meeting to discuss discrepancies between expectations and delivered rewards. She got an automated reply, "Thank you for your feedback. Your concern has been logged." Logged like a customer complaint about printer toner. Fine. She took it a step up, messaged Darren directly. Short and respectful, "I'd like to schedule a quick chat about Q4 comp. Let me know what works for you this week." No reply, no read receipt, just air. She waited 48 hours, then followed up. Nothing. On Wednesday, she saw Darren at the company cafeteria, laughing a little too loud with some junior engineers over Caesar salads and Topo Chicos. She didn't interrupt. She hovered a table away, pretending to fill her water bottle. That's when she heard it. Honestly, Melanie's crew, they're like overpaid cheerleaders, Darren snorted, stabbing his salad like it owed him money. They close deals, sure, but you'd think they invented fire the way they strut around. Entitled little revenue princesses. His friend laughed. One of the engineers awkwardly sipped his drink. Melanie didn't move, she didn't cry, didn't blink. She just turned and walked out, palms cold and jaw so tight it felt like her molars would shatter. That was the moment. Not the pizza, not the silence, that sentence. Overpaid cheerleaders. Like she hadn't bled for this company. Like she hadn't held the line during the layoff wave, coached Darren's own nephew through his first sales quarter, or taken calls while getting IVs during a stomach bug in 21. Like her team wasn't the only reason they'd scraped through COVID without tanking. She got back to her office and opened a new folder on her desktop. She named it Insurance. First went the Salesforce dashboards. Screenshots of every closed deal, every pipeline forecast, every above-expectation client review. Then came the Slack logs, where Rick himself had called her indispensable last November, and where the VP of product had begged her to keep his team looped in because your crew actually delivers. Then she downloaded the original PDF of her comp plan. And the amended version Rick had emailed, less formal, but legally binding, after the healthcare deal. She even found the timestamped voice note he'd sent her on WhatsApp saying, "Let's figure out how to really show our appreciation for what you pulled off. You're the future here. Oh, Rick, you slippery little possum." By Thursday, she had a 22-page digital dossier of receipts, organized, tagged, backed up in 2 cloud drives and a thumbstick shaped like a pink flamingo her daughter gave her as a joke, just in case. And then she opened that email. Sarah Lynn. Atrix Dynamics. The one she'd ghosted last July because Rick had finally given her a title bump and a phony equity carrot. Her reply was one line, "Still interested?" The response came back 7 minutes later. Absolutely, you and anyone you bring, full autonomy, 25% bump. Let's talk. Melanie sat there for a moment, not smiling, just breathing like a diver who'd finally surfaced. She didn't tell her team, not yet. She started making moves. Client check-ins were rerouted through her personal number. She encouraged reps to save key files just in case. She started listening more, really listening during their venting sessions. She asked things like, if you could build your perfect workplace, what would it look like? She noticed how fast they answered. She wasn't rushing it, not yet. This wasn't a rebellion, not yet. This was reconnaissance. Cold, strategic, surgical, let them eat pizza. She was building an army. Mark was the first to break. They were debriefing a client pitch that should have been a win. It had all the right numbers, the right fit, even that weird little shared Slack emoji rapport, and yet the deal went cold. Melanie knew why. The client had sensed the rot. Something in the air, the way HQ suddenly looped in a clueless strategic partner to handle post-close support. After the call, Mark sighed, leaned back in his chair, and said, it feels like they're trying to make us irrelevant from the inside. Aisha didn't disagree. They keep changing comp structures, burying the updates in policy links. I had to Google discretionary adjustment protocol just to figure out what they were shaving off this time. Even Casey, sweet, wide-eyed Casey, who once wore a tie just to impress the product team, muttered, honestly, if another company called me right now, I'd take the meeting. Melanie kept her face neutral. The key wasn't to react, it was to track. Who was just venting? Who was looking for a life raft? When she got home that night, she didn't turn on the lights. Just sat in the kitchen, nursing cold leftovers straight from the Tupperware. Her husband, Jake, walked in, kissed her on the forehead and said, you've been staring at the microwave clock for 10 minutes. She told him everything, not the plan, not yet, just what had happened. The pizza. The silence, Darren's cheerleader line, the HR void, the shadow dimming of her team's numbers. The fact that when she tried to check her Q4 bonus projection in the internal system, it redirected her to a 404 page. Jake listened. Quiet like he always had. Then he said, Mel, are you sure this isn't just burnout talking? She didn't blink. I'm sure they want me gone. They're just trying to make me pull the trigger so they don't have to. He rubbed the back of his neck. So, what, you're thinking of walking? She nodded. Not just me, that got a pause. Okay, he said carefully. Then you better do it clean, not petty, not reactive. Surgical. Melanie reached into her laptop bag and pulled out a yellow legal pad. The kind with her looping, ruthless notes. On it, 5 columns, legal, clients, comms, team, timing. She tapped the third column. Already moved client touchpoints to my phone. They're used to hearing from me, not Darren. He couldn't close a window without triggering a fire drill. Then legal. She'd reviewed her contract twice, plus had her cousin's husband, an actual employment lawyer in Austin, take a look. The non-compete clause was there, but toothless. Only covered active clients and only for 90 days. And she already had it in writing that her team technically reported to her, not the company's centralized sales ops. Next, she opened her LinkedIn, quietly updated her job title to open to new strategic growth roles. No flashy announcement, just a signal. Within 24 hours, she got 4 recruiter DMs and a coffee invite from a former colleague who now ran sales at a fintech unicorn. Still, she didn't jump. She tested. She casually asked Mark if he still had a copy of the new client onboarding playbook, just in case it got deleted from the shared drive. He had 5 backups. She mentioned to Aisha that some companies were offering flexible quotas and profit sharing. Aisha responded, profit sharing? Must be nice to work somewhere with shame. Casey got a test too. Melanie asked if he'd ever considered relocating, purely hypothetical. He said, only if I got to follow a manager who actually gave a damn. Loyalty, 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 it was there. The only wild card was her team's risk tolerance. They were competent, hungry. They had mortgages, student loans. Casey's dad was going through chemo. Aisha supported her younger sister through college. Mark had twins. Melanie knew she couldn't lead them into freefall, so she started building a landing strip. Atrix Dynamics was all in. Sarah Lynn scheduled a quiet call with HR and legal. They could take all 7 reps effective immediately with comp bumps across the board and a signing bonus. Remote first, autonomy guaranteed, but only if Melanie gave the word. She didn't, not yet. Instead, she built the blueprint for the mass resignation, each letter templated but personal with staggered send times. She drafted client transition emails that would fire off 30 minutes after the announcement. The final piece, timing. She scrolled through her inbox past Darren's latest team alignment drivel until she found it. All hands meeting Friday 10 a.m. Let's celebrate our Q4 wins? Perfect. She smiled for the first time in weeks. Not big, just enough to taste the revenge. Let them plan their little pizza party. She was staging a walkout that'd leave scorch marks on their Q1 forecast. The HR response came at 7:13 a.m. on a Tuesday, tucked between a Motivation Monday newsletter and a company-wide invitation to sign up for Wellness Goat Yoga. Subject, bonus structure clarification message. Hi, Melanie. Thanks again for your inquiry. After reviewing the Q4 performance and comp policies, we've determined that all payouts align with our internal equity guidelines. Let us know if you'd like a refresher on how discretionary metrics are applied. Best, Shelby, discretionary metrics. That was corporate for because we said so. Melanie stared at the email while stirring her black coffee, the spoon clinking against the mug like a warning bell. Equity guidelines. Her team had overperformed by every measurable standard. They had metrics that would make Salesforce weep. There was no gray area, unless, of course, they were creating one. Later that same day, Darren's name lit up in her inbox. The subject line made her teeth grind. Quick note team collaboration. She opened it. Mel just wanted to offer support as we evolve into the next phase of team synergy. With that in mind, we've asked Jackson from the Biz Dev Pod to shadow you for a few weeks, help out with transition strategy, knowledge share, that sort of thing. Totally normal stuff. Let us know if you need anything. Jackson, the red bolt-shugging toddler in khakis who once asked during a pipeline review if gross margin meant like the stuff we sell before taxes. They were planting his ass in her department like a fungal spore. This wasn't support. This was a soft demotion wrapped in team-building glitter. Melanie didn't reply. She forwarded the email to her private Gmail, then deleted it from her work inbox and cleared her trash folder. Her eyes didn't twitch. Her jaw didn't clench. She was past fury. Cold now, cold as dry ice. That night, she got a text from an unknown number. Check your comp sheet. You didn't get what you earned. Then a follow-up, clerical recalibration. Ask Layla. No name. The tip was legit. Melanie pulled up the latest commission doc in the system. It was masked behind a SharePoint redirect and suddenly password protected, which it never had been before. Once inside, she scanned the totals. $42,800. That was wrong. She had receipts, hard math, putting her quarterly commission closer to $69,000. She triple-checked the contracts, her client close dates, her deal sizes. Every row confirmed it. He shaved her pay by nearly 40%. Clerical recalibration. She imagined Darren saying it out loud with that weasel smirk like it was a spell that absolved him of theft. They weren't just trying to demoralize her, they were trying to erase her. And still, Melanie didn't react, didn't scream, didn't forward the doc to her team in a fit of rage. She started coaching them instead. During one-ones, she began weaving in what-ifs. If the company structure shifted, what would you need in a manager to stay effective? When you think about your future here, what makes you feel secure? If we had to rebuild this department from scratch, what would we do differently? She pretended it was team building, career development, alignment, but it was survival training. They didn't even realize she was quietly rehearsing for the fall. Mark mentioned he'd started backing up client contacts on his personal drive, just in case. Aisha asked how she should word her resume's value metrics if hypothetically someone ever poached us. Even Casey, bless his hopeful little heart, said, "If anything ever happens to this place, I want to land where you land, Mel." Her chest tightened for half a second. Then she nodded once, businesslike. Good instincts. She knew she was asking them to stand on the edge of the cliff, but she wouldn't push until she could build them a bridge. Melanie stayed late every night that week. Lights off, hoodie up, glowing screen. Preparing final comms, HR-safe documentation, a full exit roadmap. She even pre-scheduled emails to be sent at 10:07 a.m. Friday, 7 minutes after she'd take the stage at the all-hands. Customer transition templates, vendor alerts, legal confirmations, NDAs for those who'd asked for them. She even had custom resignation letters, pre-filled with each team member's name and finalized start dates at Atrix, pending their final go-ahead. Everything ready, everything lined up. Her hands didn't shake, not anymore. The meeting wasn't on any calendar, no subject line, no Zoom link. Just a text chain with 7 names, a rooftop bar downtown, and a start time of 8:30 p.m., late enough to dodge any team syncs or suspicious Slack pings. Melanie got there early, ordered 7 beers and 1 ginger ale for Casey, then chose the corner booth facing the door. Cold wind, neon hum, quiet jazz bleeding from the bar speakers. Her laptop bag stayed zipped shut at her feet, bulging with printouts, data, and the final proof they'd all been asking for in silence. One by one, her team filtered in. Mark first, always early, always tired. Then Aisha, dragging a tote full of paperwork she never trusted to the cloud. Casey, nervous smile hiding that he'd probably triple-checked his GPS route. Then Nora, Dev, Sean. And finally Jules, the team's chaos gremlin, late on purpose to make an entrance, eyeliner so sharp it could file HR complaints. They made small talk, laughed, ordered fries, and then Melanie said quietly, "This is off the record. You can leave at any time, but I need to show you something." 7 phones went face down. She started with the bonus theft, the commission recalibration, the planted junior manager, the gaslighting email thread, the insult, the cheerleader comment. She played it back from her phone, audio fuzzy but undeniable. Darren's voice, his venom, served cold. Then came the numbers. She pulled out the comp doc and laid it on the table, highlighted in yellow and red. Circled in ballpoint, $69,150 earned, $42,800 paid. "They're pocketing your work," she said. "They're stealing from me, from all of us." Then came the offer, Atrix Dynamics, full buyout of her entire team. Salary bumps, signing bonuses. Client territory preserved, remote first. No Darren, no Rick, no pizza parties, silence. Then Mark said, "What do you need from us?" She blinked. "Your trust." "Done," said Aisha. "They made their decision, now we make ours." Nora nodded. "I don't need to think about it." They took my maternity deal off the table and said it was a capacity issue. I'm done, Jules smirked. Tell me where and when. I already stole my chair from the office. It's in my trunk. One by one, each said yes. No hesitation, no deals, no ultimatums, just yes. They toasted with cheap beer and crinkle-cut fries like it was the last supper before a heist. When she got home that night, Melanie didn't cry, didn't even sit down. She walked straight to her desk, opened her laptop, and typed out her resignation. Short, surgical, indisputable. Subject, my resignation effective immediately, Rick. This email serves as my formal resignation from my role as sales director, effective Friday at 10:05 a.m. Please forward all future correspondence to my personal email, as my work account will be deactivated by then. Sincerely, Melanie Reyes. She saved it as a draft. Then, using her private email scheduler, she set it to auto-send mid-meeting, precisely 5 minutes after Rick's opening speech would end and 5 seconds before her 5-minute Q4 celebration remarks were scheduled to begin. She added no flourish. No attachments, no rage, just the bullet. The aim would be taken care of live in front of everyone. She closed her laptop, breathed in, and smiled, not because it was over, but because it was ready. Melanie rehearsed in her garage, not in front of a mirror, not in her office. In her goddamn garage, wedged between her daughter's tricycle and a box of expired holiday decorations, because it was the only place in the house that felt as cold and quiet as she needed to be. She stood beneath a single bulb, holding a dry erase marker like it was a courtroom clicker, and said it over and over. I want to start by thanking the people who made Q4 possible. Pause. Pivot. Slash. But gratitude without integrity is just lipstick on a lie. Each time she trimmed a word, shifted an inflection, cut every syllable until it landed like broken glass in a velvet glove. She didn't want to sound angry. Anger was easy to dismiss. She wanted to sound inevitable. Like a truth they'd always known, finally spoken aloud. Her lawyer reviewed everything, her resignation, the team's offers, the non-compete carve-outs, the data backups, the email logs. Clean. Legal. Surgical. Her favorite phrase was his final reply, no liability, just noise. She liked that. Noise, let them scream. Behind the scenes, she assembled the final payload. Every component lined up in perfect, brutal sequence. First, the transition docs, polished, comprehensive. Each client mapped out with points of contact, renewal dates, open tickets, and warm intros already drafted. She left nothing sloppy. No burning bridges, no bitter sarcasm. Every document dripped with unsettling professionalism, so clean it would sting, like a breakup text from someone who clearly already moved on. Next, the customer emails, pre-written in her personal CRM, set to send 30 minutes after her announcement. Each one warm, confident, phrased as a new opportunity, not a departure. Clients wouldn't panic. They'd pivot, follow her, because she'd already spoken to every key one, all verbal, no trails. Knew where she was headed, they were waiting. And then the resignation letters. Her teams, customized with effective dates pre-reviewed by Atrix Legal. Timed, sequenced. First one fires 5 minutes after she leaves the podium. The next 6 follow in 3-minute intervals, like dominoes, like thunderclaps, like a Gotham symphony. Each letter just as concise and ruthless as hers, effective immediately. Future correspondence may be directed to my private email. Thank you for the opportunity. No explanation, just exodus. She even packed up her office the night before the meeting, late at night, elevator music humming in the background like an oblivious lullaby. A few framed photos, her external hard drive, the pink flamingo thumbstick, her notepad. Left the company-issued laptop on the desk. Wiped. Clean. Posted on the screen, logged out. Good luck. Friday morning, she dressed deliberately. Not flashy, just sharp. Tailored navy blazer, black blouse, clean slacks, no jewelry, no flair, just presence. Jake watched her from the kitchen. You're calm, he said. She nodded, because it's done. She drove herself, parked in her usual spot. Walked in like it was any other Friday. No one noticed the difference. Not yet. 9:56 a.m. Rick took the stage, radiating smug like cologne, cracking a joke about last quarter's record revenue and how sometimes success is the best kind of surprise. Melanie's phone vibrated in her pocket. Scheduled email, sent 10:05 a.m. sharp. Her resignation had landed. She waited, let him finish his empty monologue. Listened to the clapping that followed, hollow and practiced. Then he said, let's hear from the woman who made it happen. Melanie Reyes, everybody, applause. She stood, walked to the front, picked up the mic. Her 5 minutes began, and the company's future ended. Rick thought he was handing her a mic. In reality, he was handing her the match. The all hands was live streamed, of course, because nothing screams authentic leadership like watching your CEO pace around on Zoom while humble bragging about navigating rough waters. Rick stood in front of the slide deck like he'd won an Oscar for best spreadsheet, wearing a button down too tight for his chest and a smirk that belonged on a mugshot. Biggest Q4 in company history, he announced, fake modesty dripping off each word. Record renewals, new verticals, and we did it together as a family. No one person gets the credit, this is a group win, a shared win. He tapped the screen. The next slide, a cartoon pizza wearing sunglasses. Laughter. Nervous, scattered. Let's remember, Rick chuckled, revenue feeds the company. Culture feeds the soul. Then he winked. Speaking of soul, here's someone who's been instrumental to our growth. Melanie Reyes, why don't you come up and say a few words about what teamwork means to you? Cue the claps, polite, hesitant. She rose slowly, smoothed the front of her blazer, and walked to the front like a soldier approaching a ceasefire table she knew wouldn't last 5 minutes. Took the mic, nodded once to the room, once to the camera, then began. I want to start, she said, calm and composed, by thanking my team. Not for their performance, though it was extraordinary, but for their integrity. They worked nights, they worked weekends, they hit every goal this company put in front of them, and they did it without cutting corners, without complaining, and without ever demanding more than what they earned. You could feel the air change, the shift. The silence had weight now. She continued. But recently, Melanie said, voice unshaken, I've come to realize that integrity isn't always a two-way street. That sometimes the people cashing the checks don't respect the ones writing them. That loyalty, when not reciprocated, becomes just another word for leverage. Rick's smile was frozen now. CFO Layla was suddenly very interested in her phone. So, Melanie said, looking out across the sea of familiar faces, effective immediately, I'm resigning from my role as sales director. A few stunned gasps. But I won't be going alone. She turned slightly, making direct eye contact with each of her team members sitting in the front row. Every member of my core sales team has also resigned. As of 5 minutes ago, we have accepted positions at a competitor who values what we bring to the table. We'll be starting Monday, a beat. And just to clarify, those record-breaking Q4 wins you were all celebrating, 18.3 million in projected revenue. That pipeline was built entirely by us. Our clients, our contracts, our relationships, which we're now taking with us. Now the room was dead silent. Even the intern who always clapped too loud was frozen. Melanie finally turned to Rick. No smile, just precision. Your pizza party cost you $18 million. Then calmly she placed the mic down, not dropped. Not thrown, placed, like a final receipt on a dinner bill someone else would be choking on for months. She walked down the aisle, past Darren, who looked pale enough to disappear, past HR, who was already typing furiously, out through the double doors. Behind her, the first resignation email hit inboxes, then another, then another. The dominoes were falling, and the match had just touched the fuse. They didn't even make it to the catered pizza. By the time the first delivery guy wheeled in boxes stacked taller than the intern manning the door, the room had already detonated. Rick's voice cracked mid-sentence as phones buzzed, emails pinged, and half the front row walked out in synchronized silence. It was like watching the oxygen get sucked out of a pressurized cabin. People didn't just react, they scrambled. Layla, the CFO, bolted out of the room, phone pressed to her ear, already shouting, check the contracts. Check the damn contracts. Spoiler, the contracts were clean. Melanie had made sure of that, every clause vetted, every exit pristine. No non-competes breached, no IP entanglements, no client poaching. Just clients voluntarily following the people who actually gave a damn about their accounts. By noon, the company's internal Slack was a graveyard of locked channels and panicked threads. Hash Q4 celebration became hash urgent comms triage. Hash Melanie team was deleted. Hash legal escalations exploded with messages, then went silent. HR sent out a tone-deaf message at 1:17 p.m. We are aware of the departures and are working on exciting internal growth opportunities. By 1:30 p.m., 5 more employees had quit voluntarily, people from adjacent departments, quietly inspired by what they just witnessed. Clients began emailing Atrix Dynamics directly. Not angry, not confused, just loyal, transitioning, signing new paperwork because Melanie had called them all personally, privately in the weeks leading up. They knew the truth, they'd felt it, and they were ready. At 4:05 p.m., the board called an emergency meeting. Rick tried to spin it, blamed poor communication, said they could rebuild, said Melanie's theatrics wouldn't age well. The chairwoman raised a hand mid-sentence. Where's Darren? No one answered. By 6:00 p.m., the COO had been transitioned out. By Monday, Melanie's former department was functionally dead. 7 empty desks, 1 burnt-out printer still blinking with a paper jam from 2022. A new junior manager, Jackson, sat in Melanie's old office looking like someone had asked him to defuse a bomb with a spork. Meanwhile, 14 floors up and 3 miles east, Melanie Reyes unlocked the glass door to her new office. Corner view, real wood desk. 0 cartoon pizza. Atrix Dynamics didn't do pizza parties, they did profit shares. Mark had already landed a $700K contract. Aisha was leading cross-functional training. Casey walked in with a new laptop and said, they gave me a welcome gift bag that included a massage voucher. I cried in the parking lot. Melanie didn't throw confetti. She didn't gloat. She just unpacked a single framed photo of her daughter, placed it on her desk, and turned her chair toward the window. The skyline didn't look different, but she did. At 3:33 p.m., she posted a single photo to LinkedIn. No caption, just a selfie in her new chair, coffee in one hand, skyline behind her. Her eyes were calm, focused, alive. An hour later, she added a caption, lunch isn't pizza. That was it, no press release, no victory parade, just quiet dominance. Rick's company, still reeling. Revenue forecast halved. Morale in freefall. Recruiters ghosting them mid-call. The board was whispering words like merger and external review, but it didn't matter. The artery had already been cut. Melanie didn't just leave, she evolved. She turned a pizza party into a funeral with a 5-minute eulogy and a team that never looked back. Appreciate you sticking around, you legends of the break room. Subscribe for more chaos. Let's make your old managers spill their coffee in fear.